Caitlin Clark, Jensen react to Iowa taking down number 7 Baylor. The magic Caitlin Clark created in Iowa City never really faded, even as the Hawkeyes' early post-Clark reality showed in a 30-turnover outing, their worst in 22 years, handing them the first loss of the 2024 season. Yet Jensen never blinked while stepping into the massive shadow of Lisa Blutter and Clark, leading Iowa to a 23-11 record, an NCAA tournament berth, and a signature 76-69 win over number 4 USC and Juju Watkins on the very day Clark's number 22 rose into the rafters. Now, entering year 2 of the Clarkless era, Iowa's refusal to break is still evident in their dominance, and who could be prouder than Clark herself? So, Clark promptly went to her Instagram stories and reposted the team's original post with pictures of the Hawkeyes basking in their victory. Moments like these, she wrote simply, and left every Iowa faithful nodding. In their first real challenge of the season against a 7th-ranked Baylor, also 4-0 entering the game, Iowa improved to a 5-0 record. They also broke the all-time tie against Baylor, now 2-1, having previously lost twice to the Bears in the NCAA tournament, including in the 2019 Elite Eight. Still, this 57-52 win wasn't easy. Baylor opened the game swatting anything near the rim, 7 blocks in the first quarter, and for a while, it felt like nothing Iowa tried worked. The Hawkeye defense actually held Baylor to 4 for 12 and forced 6 first-quarter turnovers, which oddly left Iowa clinging to an 11-9 lead even though they didn't score in the final 4:50 of the opening frame. The BY halftime, though, Baylor led 28-25 and Jensen's squad was just 4 of 14 from the floor. The game got worse when Iowa lost players to injury. Stolka exited late in the first half with an ankle issue, and Chit-Chat Wright, the team's early leading scorer, suffered a hard hit to the head at 9:19 of the half and was carried off. However, as Clark said after her last Iowa game, "We never give up. We just keep fighting." Iowa didn't stop trying to clamp down. And eventually, it worked, forcing Baylor into a 1-4-15 stretch from the field, and they seized the moment. Emily Rodriguez powered in a contact layup and Taylor Stremlow buried a right-wing 3 to put Iowa up 39-37 with 2:33 left in the third, their first lead since early in the second. Stremlow, who had only 2 points in the first half, kept finding big shots, while Baylor's Talia Scott battled back with a 3 and then drew and made 3 free throws to push Baylor up 51-48 with 5:49 left. But Iowa answered again. Rodriguez hit a transition bucket to make it 54-51 with 1:30 remaining, and Taylor McCabe's theft on the inbounds and finish bumped the lead to 5 with 1:25 to go. This victory, hence, was all about resilience, and the HC made sure to convey the deep pride in her program's performance. So incredibly proud of our crew. They showed so much resilience and got a blue-collar, gritty win. And B1G shout out to our awesome fans who came to Florida. You guys were loud when we needed you most. No better fan base in the country. We love you guys. Jensen wrote on X. She had also echoed the same thoughts in the post-game conference. You just knew you were going to have to grit it out, she said. And Baylor always plays really good defense. I think our defense is pretty solid. We weren't hitting and they made it hard. We're still learning pieces. We're still learning who we want to put in at different times. Yet, the credit goes to the coach herself as much as it goes to the team's resilience. Jensen breaks her silence on Wright's injury. Iowa's next matchup comes on Saturday at 7 p.m. when they'll take on Miami, FLA, in the second game of the event. During her post-game chat on Learfield Radio, Jensen didn't offer any specifics on Wright's condition, but when the conversation shifted to Miami's aggressive defensive style, she indirectly signaled that the 5'4" guard won't be available. They do about 6 different presses, so it'll be a lot different team than this, Baylor, Jensen said. So we'll really be tested with our press breaker. But unfortunately, it's without Chit-Chat. So that's become a lot more ominous, not that it wasn't before. But breaking a press with Chit-Chat makes me sleep a lot better at night. Now breaking it without Chit-Chat, we're really going to have to depend on our cuts and our angles. So we don't have a lot of time to work with that. But I'm sure I'll get lots of minutes to practice tomorrow. Our coaches will be up late tonight watching this one and making sure we've got all of the I's dotted and T's crossed for the prep for Miami. Yes, the Hawkeyes would need everything to fall into place if they want to get past Miami, also undefeated. Sure, the ESPN predictor favors Iowa. However, the Hurricanes have revamped their roster, bringing in key transfers like 6 feet 6 inches center R.A. Shea Kyle and guard Gal Raviv, making them a much different and dangerous team. So, we know better than to just write them off. The air in Carver Hawkeye Arena still pulsed long after the final buzzer. It didn't matter that the stands had emptied and the broadcasters were packing up their equipment. Something electric remained, like the echo of a storm that refused to leave the sky. Iowa had just taken down number 7 Baylor, a victory that felt less like an upset and more like a declaration. And at the center of it all was the woman the world had been watching for years, Caitlin Clark, ponytail bouncing, eyes blazing, a grin stretched from one sideline to the other. But tonight, the story wasn't just about her. It was also about Jensen, Iowa's interim head coach and longtime assistant under Lisa Blutter. The win was the biggest of her early tenure, and as she walked toward the locker room, her heart thudded with something close to disbelief, though not surprise. Iowa had been building to this moment all along. The locker room roar. The moment Jensen pushed open the door, a tidal wave of cheers crashed over her. Water bottles sprayed. Music thumped. And in the middle of it, Caitlin Clark stood on a folding chair like a queen claiming her throne. There she is. Clark shouted when she saw Jensen enter. Coach JJ. Jensen laughed, a loud, unfiltered sound that filled the room, as Clark hopped down and wrapped her up in a hug that nearly lifted the coach off her feet. You didn't tell us you had a few tricks ready for a top 10 team, Caitlin teased. Jensen pointed back. You didn't tell me you were going to hit a step back from the logo to close the third quarter. Caitlin shrugged with mock innocence. I had to keep things interesting. But even through the celebration, something unspoken hummed between them, something deeper than highlights and rankings. This win mattered. Not just because of the number next to Baylor's name, but because it said something new about Iowa's identity. The Hawkeyes were learning how to evolve again. Clark's fire. When Caitlin Clark faced the cameras, she looked like someone who had just spent 2 hours dancing with destiny. This is Iowa basketball, she said, leaning toward the mics. People think we lost something when we lost Coach Blutter. We didn't lose. We grew. Her stat line didn't need to be recited, but the reporters did anyway, because it was Clark and numbers followed her like a second shadow. 30-plus points. Double-digit assists. 3 steals. A fourth quarter that felt less like a performance and more like a spell cast over Baylor's hopes. But when asked what she was proudest of, she didn't mention herself.